was in a team meeting and I started giving my update and my brain froze mid-sentence and I just got stuck.
Sometimes your greatest fear becomes the doorway of your life's work. Today, my guest is Michael Gendler, the co-founder of Ultraspeaking. Michael told me years ago he froze in the middle of a team meeting. Thoughts gone, breaths lost. And instead of running away from that moment, he decided this is the thing I want to solve.
A formula for speaking, here we go.
Not only for himself, but eventually for thousands of other people, from executives to creative to keynote speakers.
Immediately, I'm like, I want this. This is the only thing I want in my life. I want this skill. I want this ability.
This episode isn't just about public speaking. It's about the courage to stay with the things that scares you, the curiosity to follow a thread without knowing where it leads, and the discipline of showing up 100 Thursdays in a row because you refuse to quit.
So I went to Toastmasters every week from 7 to 9 p.m. on Thursday for 100 Thursdays in a row. I never missed a Thursday. And so for 2 years, I just showed up.
I recorded this a few months ago. Feels less like an interview, more like a conversation and a self-discovery. Michael has given me so much space. And
speaking is not something you need to learn or to add on. It's literally something you unlock within yourself. It's like a magic skill that you already have.
we even did a mini coaching session.
You're going to get a 1-minute timer. As you're speaking, you're going to have these random phrases appear on your screen. These are
Spoiler alert is about the conviction prompts. That changes how I present and show up. If you're in a season of self-doubt and not knowing where to begin, this episode will meet you where you are.
As long as we keep getting better at our craft, success is inevitable.
This is your victory.
And today, we're gonna unpack the story behind that craft. Let's dive in. Hi, Michael.
Lydia, good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you again. Welcome to the podcast. It's called Escape 9 to 5. It's a very selfish podcast because I'm on this journey of escaping my 9 to 5. I hope I can be on this journey as long as I can. And that's why I keep having conversations with people like yourself. This is an unexpected one because this actually is from a game that we're going to play today. It's from the conversation we had about truth, and a lie that time we met over IP3 over a little bit of a month ago. Yeah, welcome to the show. And the first question is if you can give us 2 truths and a lie from your Escape 9 to 5 journey. And then I'll guess which one is the lie.
Okay, I remember you being quite good at this.
Yes.
Does it have to be from that journey? Can it just be 3 things about myself?
Yeah. Anything.
Anything, okay. So the first thing is I can type over 100 words per minute.
Okay.
The the second thing is I'm currently a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the third thing is that I don't set goals.
Which one is the lie? I think the third one is the lie. You do set goals?
No, I don't set goals. Finally stumped
At all?
the great Lydia. I don't know.
So which one is the lie? You can type over 100 words. I think it's not. I know some people, for example, like Ali Abdal, he can type a lot of words a minute. I also can type a lot of words a minute. So I feel like that should be true. Is it that you're not a blue, you're a black?
Yeah, the black, the wrong direction.
I don't know the direction.
Well, I'm a beginner white belt in jiu-jitsu. I've been going for about 6-7 months now. So blue belt is kind of it feels like the dream because it's been so hard to make progress. It's one of the most difficult learning projects I've ever really been a part of. So in my dreams, I'm a blue belt. In my realities, I just started.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get there. Only 6 months though. I think it takes time. Why did you want to learn jiu-jitsu?
There were a lot of reasons. One was self-defense and wanting to feel more confident, being able to just like walk on the street and feel like I could protect myself and anybody I was with. But really the reason I'm still with it, because I've been wanting to quit many times, is I remember talking to somebody who was like a few levels above me, who'd been there for maybe like 8, 9 months. And I asked, his name is Andrew, and I asked Andrew, like, I'm curious, like, why are you still here? What's making you keep going? And he said, it's because I haven't learned anything yet. Why would I quit if I haven't even learned anything yet? What's the point? And he was better than I was, you know, he was much more steady and accomplished. And so I think the reason I'm still in it is because it's probably the hardest learning project I've ever taken on. It just takes so much time to feel a sense of any improvement, and there's so much overwhelm of how much I don't know that I really just want to. I'm so curious, can I actually do this thing? And a big part of my brain has been like, no, I don't think it's possible. So I'm trying to fight that part of the brain and see, okay, what happens if I just keep showing up and stick it out?
Wow, that's a good journey though. Like I feel like 6 months, possibly you're just gonna hit the inflection point and then go up quickly. Myself, I was a not fit person for a long time in my life, and then I become very fit. I think the first several months is the most difficult part. Then it become easier and easier. I bet those
Yeah.
people like your friend Andrew will also tell you the same. It's only been 6 months though. Those people who are like blue and black and something, they've been there for
Yeah.
a long time. So I'm
Years.
cheering for you.
Years. And that's what I think is so strange. I'm so used to in my life picking up things far more quickly or dropping them quickly. I'm so used to being like, either this is something that comes naturally and I'll add it to my toolkit, or it's like piano. I've picked it up many times and then I realize, wow, if I want to actually learn how to play, it's going to take hours and months and years of just repetitive practice, drilling. It's just a lot of work. And so I drop it many times. So that's really what's challenging for me, is having the patience to go, okay, buckle up. It's going to take at least 2, 3 years for you to feel much progress. So,
Yeah,
you know, there's no shortcut,
nice.
so to speak.
So is that the reason that a lot of things that come natural to you, so that you don't set goals, but you just kind of contradict your third this statement because being in blue is kind of now your goal, right?
Maybe I know I'm full of contradictions. I know that to be true. I think what I mean by I don't set goals is that I mean, I really don't set a goal, I think, is what's the difference between a goal and an intention, for example, or a goal and a
Hmm.
wish? A goal is like
Yeah.
you're going to do something about it. You're going to create a plan for it. You're going to maybe make it, you're going to give something to it. And I think every time I've done that in my life, I felt like I trapped myself in a promise or a commitment, and suddenly I'm doing it for the wrong reason. I'm really not doing it
Mm.
for the blue belt. That would be an incredible reflection of what it really means, which is I want to stick with something. But even the goal of, hey, I want you to stick with this for 2 years is I don't know what me from 6 months in the future is going to want. And so I really don't like the trapping, intimidating structure of committing myself to something that I might not want in the future. And so these days I set intentions, if that means
Not
anything.
goals.
Like I intend to stay in it. I intend to do hard things. But the moment it becomes a goal or becomes a plan, I always fail. I never reach it. I give up too early. I get discouraged. And so I just realized, yeah, I don't really respond well to that type of structure.
Gotcha. The goal in your statement is more like very rigid type of planning process, whereas you wanted to follow your natural instincts and kind of like a flow, and it leads to somewhere that can fulfill rather than a goal, but like you said, an intention.
Yeah, because I think goals are meant to be reached. Goals are meant to motivate, and um, I think I'm approaching it from I don't want to promise anything to myself because I've been disappointed
Hmm.
far too many times. So even setting the intention, I have this permission clause of like, you could change your mind tomorrow. It's totally okay. So I really want the intention to be something that's more around the type of person I want to be so that it's not so easy to break, and less about the type of thing I want to do or the type of result I want to achieve, which tends to change with the winds.
Wow. It's a very profound opening question that I have ever done with any guest. I think it actually leads up to the question I'm going to ask next, because now you're the founder of Ultraspeaking. I think part of the reason that we're having this conversation is because you actually have an original Escape 9 to 5 story that I was very, very interested in. If you can share with us how it happens that you onboarded this journey of you're doing your own business, and that also is relevant to setting goals and intention of what kind of person you want to become.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. Essentially, I grew up not really knowing what I wanted to do with work, but my dad always shared this story that his teacher once asked him when he was in like third or fourth grade, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my dad said, I want to be happy. And he grew up in Russia. And at that time, the teacher gave him an F for that assignment. There was something about, no, you need to be something concrete. Happy's not really an answer. And that story really stuck with me because I'm like, that's exactly what I want in my career and in my life. And so when I got to college, the only thing that really made me happy, the only subject, wasn't public speaking, it wasn't communication, it was computer science. It was the only subject that I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. So I started studying it, and I really liked it. It was like learning a new way to think. And then I became a software engineer at a company called Symantec. And then about a couple years in, I quickly realized that, first of all, I wasn't really thrilled with my job. It wasn't like what it was in college. It felt very different. I was working on legacy products. I was spending more time debugging than writing code. It was like very different. But on top of that, I would need to speak quite often. I'd need to present to my team. Sometimes I'd present to senior leadership. I would have to give updates. And I found like, wow, these moments give me a lot of dread and anxiety, and I struggled a lot. And there was this one incident at work where I was in a team meeting and I started giving my update and my brain froze mid-sentence and I just got stuck. And I just stayed in silence mid-sentence, kind of like panicking. And then my manager finished my sentence for me. His name was Brian. Brian finished my sentence for me. And I'm sure to everyone else, it was like a whatever moment. But to me, it was like the pinnacle of, this is so embarrassing. Like, I'm not cut out for this career. I'm not cut out for the professional world. So once everyone left the meeting, I was so embarrassed. I stayed back. I opened my laptop and I just, at 100 words per minute, I drafted my letter of resignation. I decided I can't do this anymore. And so right before sending it to my manager, I called my dad and I told him my plan. And my dad was really like, hey, it looks like you're running away from your goal. Not your goal. It looks like you're running away from your problems. You're not facing them head on. Like, what's to say in your next job or whatever you do, this thing's not going to show up again. And so he had a point.
Yeah, your dad is a philosopher.
He's a wise man, and he's used to sticking things out and doing difficult tasks. And so to him, it just felt like I was giving up really easily. But I didn't know what could I do? Like, how do you just persevere to speak better and feel more confident and not blank anymore? I didn't think it was a solvable problem. And it was starting to affect my mental health. I was starting to feel like really dread going to work. And so I remember going back to my desk and, turning on my desktop, and I was on the internet, and I decided to Google how to be more confident. And that phrase really changed my life because the top search result was public speaking. And I don't know how that happened, because if you do it now, maybe it'll be like, I don't know, bodybuilding
Become
or
a
dancing
TikToker.
or an influencer. But it was public speaking, and I didn't even really connect the dots that like, oh, maybe public speaking could help me be more confident. Maybe that's what I need. But regardless, I decided to go to my first public speaking training session. It was a Toastmasters club. It was in my local area. Immediately, the first day, I saw what looked like magic. I saw these people in the club being put on the spot and giving the type of speeches on the fly that to me felt like it would take weeks to prepare. They spoke so eloquently, they were funny, they made audiences laugh, they were witty, and they could weave a thread together in just a span of a couple of minutes without any preparation. And immediately I'm like, I want this. this is the only thing I want in my life. I want this skill. I want this ability. And so I remember feeling like, wow, this would be incredible to have. And so I came back the next week and it was my turn to try out that skill. And I remember when I got asked whatever question I got asked, I remember the thrill of it. I remember the fear of it. I also remember the fun of it. There's like a creativity aspect. And this is a big part of what I learned over the next 10 years is like, wow, there's so many creative ways to approach speaking. But more importantly, I just felt like motivated to keep going. And so I went to Toastmasters every week from 7 to 9 p.m. on Thursday for 100 Thursdays in a row. I never missed a Thursday. And so for 2 years, I just showed up. And I don't know how it happened exactly. We could sort of dissect it. But at some point, I started hearing people saying like, "Hey, you're quite good at this. Like you've got a gift for this." Like, and to me, I'm like, dude, how could that be true? This is my biggest fear and blah, blah, blah. And I remember, I'll end with this. I remember one Toastmaster, her name was Angela. She was my mentor, came up to me one time and she said, you know, sometimes your greatest fears can become your greatest gifts. And I thought that was very wise.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's essentially what happened for me. And now I try to share that message with others as well.
That's amazing. I am in disbelief to hear you say that you were at one point not confident yourself, because we met over this event and you were invited as one of the gifted people to share your talent about public speaking. And when I was preparing even for this podcast, I was like, this is going to be the easiest to edit podcast ever because I don't even need to cut a thing because you're just
That's
good
so
at
nice to say.
this. Yeah, I have my own fair share. I was not a confident person my entire life, almost until a few years ago. I remember when you said the mid-sentence frozen thing, it happened to me when I was 18. I was going through an interview to get into Hong Kong University. I stopped mid-sentence when I was introducing myself. So I stood up, I said, "Hi, I'm
Wow.
Lydia. I am," and then I just cannot remember a thing because I wasn't that confident in English. I wasn't confident that much, and also definitely not confident in English as well. And then, of course, I didn't get anything. And by chance, after that, I got into another university in mainland China. The first thing I did, I was like, I'm not confident. I'm not going to interview. So I'm going to interview for all the societies and clubs in the university. And I got a spot in the society that they arrange these kind of like a party for all the new students. And I was the host for the games, which is so
Oh,
funny.
wow.
And I need to like
Wow, that's
host
great.
a game for 300 people. And now I think back, I was like, now I'm hosting all sorts of different things. It's actually all
Yeah.
connected back to that moment. I am not connected to that, especially when I'm not confident. We digress. I wanted to go back to your story though, because you figured that you can actually do that. Is that the moment that you decided to teach other people in the company? Because I remember you said that you started to do that like a club in your company.
Yeah. Yeah. So about 2 years in, and first of all, thanks for sharing your story. I think so many people have some resonance, some relatability to a similar struggle. Most people I talk to these days have something in their childhood or in their high school years or in college where a presentation goes wrong or they stumble in a social setting, and it really impacts the direction, the trajectory of our future. For some people, it like really motivates us to do something about it. But for others, it kind of starts this downward cycle of, I'm gonna avoid these types of things, or I always have that possibility now in my mind. And it's like, now I feel cautious. So I really appreciate you sharing that because it's so important. And so for myself, I remember about 2 years in, Toastmasters had this mentorship program where once new people, like I used to be new there, would join, you could pair them with a mentor who kind of gives you some guidance in your first several weeks on your first several speeches. So I remember at some point I was asked if I wanted to be a mentor, and my whole life I was a math tutor, I was a tennis teacher. I think I really enjoyed teaching as a way of learning. And so I was like, yeah, I would love to be a mentor. that's really what opened the door to even this idea of like, oh, maybe I could teach this. And in fact, when I started mentoring, for example, my first mentee was somebody, his name was Alex. He was really shy, but he was like 35, and he, just similar to what you were describing, he moved to America from Russia at like age 33. So he only had a couple of years of the language. His entire world shifted as an adult. So he's standing in front of this really supportive, friendly audience trying to, introduce himself. And he's just looking down at the ground. Like, he can't make eye contact. There's a lot of hesitation in his voice. And I just know that, like, inside of that person, inside of Alex, existed this confident, assertive, passionate presence. I know it was there. Everybody has that. But when he got put in front of an audience, that just completely disappeared. And so it became this really interesting project for me where I was wondering, how do I bring that out of Alex? How can I get him to embody the most confident version of himself? And that's what inspired a lot of the experimentation. I decided to divert from the Toastmasters teaching method and just literally try anything. At the time, I was really, I was into Tony Robbins, and I would see how Tony Robbins would like have people do ridiculous things, roar and dance and walk on coals. And I'm like, there's no rule book for how to make somebody feel confident. So let me see if I can figure out how to do it for this particular person. And that's when I started going, wow, I really love this. I really love this puzzle and this work of being able to help somebody feel more confident, speak more clearly. And so I started going up to people at my job, ended up working at Hulu after Symantec. I was a project manager. Yeah, I'd approach people and I'd be like, oh, I'm a public speaking coach. And I just started trying that phrase on, or, I'm practicing public speaking. And I'd noticed that unlike most things I said, when I would mention public speaking, people would have a really strong instant reaction. Most of them would be like,
What's
oh,
that?
I need that. I need that. Oh, that sounds, oof, I don't like public speaking, or oof, I need help with that. And it was so interesting. I never saw that reaction from anybody. So I would just ask like, hey, do you want to have a session together, like during work for free? I'm happy to, see if I could help you. And a lot of people took me on, surprisingly. And so over the course of, I don't know, let's say 1 or 2 years of mentorship, I probably had hundreds of coaching sessions. Maybe, I don't know if I reached 1,000, but I tried to fill up as many coaching sessions as I can, because I slowly began to notice like, wow, project management, software engineering, I'm at like a 4 out of 10 in satisfaction. I'm kind of like getting through it. Public speaking coaching, communication coaching, I'm at like an 11. I'm at a 12. I'm like, oh my God, this thing is incredibly fun, so fulfilling, and people really value it. I submit a project at Hulu, they're like, thank you so much, and they'll send like a celebratory email. I have a great coaching session with someone, they're over the moon. They're like, this is going to change my life. I'm like, of course I want to be part of that experience so much more than the former.
Yeah. So this is a very inspiring story because it actually shows that it doesn't happen overnight, right? You took 1 to 2 years building the reps and figuring out what's the best way to help people. And you also develop your own method. And until what point do you reach to the point that you'll be like, this is my time. I'm going to do it completely from a side hustle to a real business. And
Yeah,
do you still remember those days? If you can take us
of
back to those
course.
moments, and how did you make
I
that
mean,
decision?
this is where it's going to be a little bit less relatable, but I'll bring it back. But in my unique journey,
Yes.
one of the first people that I started to mentor was a person named Tristan de Montebello. And he was somebody who walked into my public speaking club, and he was looking to improve his speaking skills, but for a very different reason. He wasn't necessarily anxious or shy. He just didn't have any public speaking experience. And he was a rapid learner, somebody who wanted to take on crazy learning projects and see how quickly can he improve. And so he walked in going, I want to improve at public speaking in the fastest amount of time possible and see how good I can get. I didn't know this at the time. I learned it after. So he walks in and asks if I could mentor him. It was right around the time when I was starting to mentor people. I said, sure, no problem. And Tristan ends up finding out about the World Championships of Public Speaking, which is this worldwide 30,000 person contest. It's giant. Every Toastmasters club competes in it. And he said, oh, that would be great. I wonder if I could compete in that, which is a ridiculous thing for somebody with no experience to even consider. But he was like, yeah, what do you think? And I'm like, sure, let's do it. And so that was the catalyst for like the craziest 6 months ever, because we both got obsessed with studying public speaking, studying storytelling, analyzing the best movies, analyzing scripts and screenplays to see how people tell the hero's journey, everything around creating a great narrative. We studied, we obsessed. And Tristan began competing and he started winning. He won the club contest, and it's kind of like Little League with single elimination, like you play at your club, and if you win, you go to the area, and there can only be one winner. So if you lose, you're out. But if you win, you keep going to division and then to district. And after district, if you win, you get to be flown to the semifinals, where there's 100 people around the world who qualify. That's exactly what happened to Tristan. He ended up making it to the semifinals of the World Championships of Public Speaking, competing in the semifinals, and then winning, and then getting to the top 10 in the world. So over this incredible 6-7 months where I really couldn't believe it the whole time. One of my mentees, one person I was coaching, ended up getting to the finals of the World Championships of Public Speaking with almost no experience. And when that happened, when he got to the top 10 and we flew home, we were both in disbelief. We're like, oh my God, what just happened? Like, this is insane. And it was around that point where I started to feel like, okay, maybe it's not a delusion anymore. Maybe it's not just something that I'm like trying to convince myself of, oh, I think you can do something here. I think there's a potential here. By that point, I had done hundreds of coaching sessions with people at work, with people at Toastmasters. I coached somebody to get to the finals of the World Championships. I'd really proven to myself, like, okay, and I could feel it. I'm like, I know there's something here. So it was around that point that Tristan and I started talking. This was in the end of 2017. And we just started wondering, what if we began teaching everything we've learned through our journey and created a company around it? And so at the end of 2017, we signed our first client to help him build a keynote presentation. He was a keynote speaker and author. We signed our first client. It was for, it was a 5-figure deal. So it was like tens of thousands of dollars. So we also were like, wow, this could be very profitable. But more importantly, it gave me the courage to go, okay, we hit this milestone. I found a business partner. We signed a client. I think I can do this. And so I put in my 2 weeks notice at Hulu at the end of 2017. And literally, once 2018 started, that was it. There was no safety net. It was the only path is forward.
Now you looks back, it's all makes sense. Do you have a moment for the first 6 months or a year of your business, you ever feel like maybe you second doubt the decision, or sometimes it feels particularly hard? And in those moments, how did you make it through? I guess having a business partner helps.
Helps a lot. Yeah. We didn't make any money for the first 6 months. So we signed this one client, and then everything else kind of fell through. And for the first 6 months, we coached a lot of people. We had a lot of conversations, and we just couldn't sign anyone. No one paid us any money. At that point, we were experimenting a lot. We couldn't figure out how to close the deal. So every month we would be transferring a couple $1,000s from our personal checking account into the business checking account. And I'm just watching my bank account decline quite rapidly. So there was definitely a lot of uncertainty. But I wouldn't say I ever regretted or doubted that it was the right move, because the experience was so fulfilling.
Mm.
And I think, so it's two things. One is the experience is so fulfilling, and I never really felt that with work before. It's like, wow, this is incredibly fun and rewarding. So I knew that to be
Yes.
important, but I also knew that like I was betting a lot on this decision. I had just gotten married. Like my wife and I, we had a whole future ahead of us, and I was basically like gambling on
Yeah.
certainty, on safety, on financial security. So I also was like, hey, this isn't just about a happiness project. This is about a career and a life. So I think just enthusiasm and fulfillment alone wouldn't have been enough for me to stay with it. The thing that really happened was, even though we weren't getting paid, Tristan and I were coaching, and we were in our coaching sessions, we could feel that we'd stumbled upon something really special. That like every coaching session, we felt like, wow, there's a force to this. There's a special magic to what's happening to people. We are watching people kind of transform in front of our eyes. They were achieving things in the span of an hour that they nor we could ever have imagined was possible. So we were discovering so much. We were seeing like, wow, people could really improve their confidence and their speaking skills in a matter of minutes. And nobody suspected that, not us, not them. So there was something that kept this belief going of, I know we have something. Like, I know we have something, and I know this is super rewarding. So we just need to keep going. And I think it's
That's
that
very
belief that,
important.
yeah, that got us through the difficult part.
Because I'm on whatever that you just said in the first 6 months. That's exactly what has happened to me the past year or so. It's every month I look at my bank statement, it's not increasing at least. So, but
Yeah.
then whatever that I've been feeling these days for the projects that I'm doing, for the network that I'm building, for the personal brand that I'm establishing for myself, I feel like I should keep going, but I also don't want to be delusional. That's why I keep having these conversations on my podcast, Escape 9 to 5. So I get to know the stories between everything feels like it's going to the right direction, but it's not there yet. What happened to your business after 6 months? What happened? Is that, did you change the business model, or all the coaching sessions has paid off that you just start to have clients coming in?
Yeah, it's a great question. Oh, I'm really lucky. I'm incredibly lucky because I had a business partner who was just as obsessed about this as I was. And I don't think if it were just me on my own, I would have succeeded, because
Yes.
it's like somebody else who believes in your dream as much as you do, which is really the scariest part of the journey. Is like, I think there's something there. I want this to succeed so much. And like you're saying, am I delusional or not? To
Mm-hmm.
have somebody else go, not only no, you're not delusional, but like, I believe in this. I'm going to try as hard as you to make this happen. I was really, really lucky. And that's something that I couldn't have orchestrated. It just happened. And it's my deepest wish for people, is to find a teammate that you resonate with, that can get you through the tough times. And that's really what happened. Like Tristan would always remind me of a couple of good mantras. One of the mantras
Yeah.
I remember we were like in his backyard. It was, I don't know, 1 p.m. on a Wednesday. We were just lying out on the Chase lounges outside in Los Angeles. And I'm sitting there going, what are we doing? Like, nobody's calling us. We haven't made a sale in weeks. Why are we just out here? Like, I'm antsy. I'm anxious. I want to do something. And he just
Yeah.
reminded me, and he's like, hey, remember this feeling. Like, remember this day. We're in the good old days. He would always say that we are in the good old days. Like, this is it. And he was so right. Like, business just came in cycles. And I think the thing that really got us out of the hole was we
Mm-hmm.
had one mantra, one central focus, which is, let's just coach. Let's just coach. It doesn't matter if it's for free, doesn't matter if it's for 2 hours. Let's try a 6-hour session. At some point in our business early on, we did only full day intensives. So we'd take a client and we'd have them come at 9 in the morning and they'd leave at 5 p.m. And we would take them through just like a marathon of exercises and experiences. We'd even like book them a massage halfway through so that they could recharge and reset.
Yeah.
So we tried everything. We tried full day intensives. We tried small group coaching where you'd have 2 people join us. Then we'd have 4 or 5 people join us for 3 hours. Then we do 90 minutes, like we tried all formats, but the thing that was our compass is like, as long as we keep getting better at our craft, success is inevitable. That's one thing Tristan would always say as well, is like, the future is bright, it's inevitable. And his belief was, look, the only thing that matters is the craft. We just have to get good at what we do. The rest will come. And so that was really our model. And some sessions were bad, some were good, some were free, but some started free. And then the person's like, this was awesome. How do I continue? And then some were free and the person didn't want to continue, but they were like, who would really love this? And they would refer us to somebody. And so as long as we had coaching calls on our calendar, that was like our North Star metric. I didn't learn that phrase until recently, but back then it was our single most important focus. As long as we had that, that's what kept us going through the hard times and the slow times.
Just need to keep going and believe that the future is bright. That's super helpful. I'll need to remember this. I want to talk about Ultraspeaking now. I listened to another podcast. You have a very, very short but very impressive bio. You're a rapper and speaker. Because through the research, I found out that you have a lot of impressive, in my mind, guests that I didn't know that they need coaching. For example, Ali Abdal, who's a YouTuber. He's teaching other people camera confidence. I met him several times in real life. And then Tiago Forte, and then even Lenny, as one of your coaching client, right? Lenny's podcast.
Yeah,
So,
Lenny Richitsky.
So where are you right now in this journey? And then what's giving you the most joy? Is it still the same thing compared to when you first started?
Yeah, so maybe the first thing to clarify is why would accomplished, successful, good speakers like Lenny and Tiago and Ali, why would they explore more coaching around communication? I think the biggest difference, at least in what Tristan and I have found, what makes our approach or the way we understand communication different than most schools of thought, is that to us, the most important metric for a communication skill is your level of enjoyment. It's not your confidence, it's not your skill set, it's literally your level of enjoyment. Meaning, if you enjoy speaking on camera, if you love being interviewed, if you thrive as a podcast host and it lights you up, perfect. Like 90% of the work is done. Now we could work on the technicalities, like what do you do if you're rambling, how to tell a good story. But many people have it backwards and they actually build up a really impressive skill set. They're good storytellers, they are confident, they're able to express themselves well, but they don't enjoy it. They go into webinars and they go on podcasts and they kind of get through it. To me, that's like the most surprising thing in the world. It's like, wow, you got so good and you still don't like it? That's insane to me. And I think it's important to realize because, first of all, most people don't even associate enjoyment with speaking. They're like, why would I enjoy this thing? It's kind of like vacuuming. Why would I ever want to enjoy vacuuming? It's a silly analogy, but it's like that's how people perceive public speaking or presenting. It's like this should not be something that, at best, I just want to not feel nervous and get through the experience. So their plan is, let me get really good at the skill. If only I could become a great storyteller and feel more confident, well, then everything will be resolved. But in reality, even when that happens, what's happening under the surface, if you don't love speaking, if you don't love pressure, if you don't love adrenaline, if those things aren't true, you're just risk managing the entire time. And you might be incredible at risk managing. You might speak eloquently and pause thoughtfully. You might perform really well, but your entire experience is one of caution and risk. It's like, I hope this goes well. Whereas the best communicators in the world are the ones that are the most self-expressed. They're super free. Now think of like Gary Vaynerchuk. He for hours, and I'm not saying he's the clearest or the most interesting. I'm saying he's the freest. You know, Brene Brown and Jennifer Lawrence feel relaxed and at ease, and they can just speak without getting in their head. And that's what I really care about more than anything, is I really want people to feel more free and more at ease speaking in the situations that are the most high pressure for them, like negotiating a salary or going on a podcast or recording a YouTube video. I don't care that you just get good. I want you to learn to enjoy it, because our belief is if you learn to first enjoy it, then you'll easily get good, because you'll feel the way that the best in the world feel. And so that's really the mission of Ultraspeaking today. It's really trying to teach people to first learn to enjoy the training of communication skills. Because if you don't enjoy training, you won't stick with it. And if you won't stick with it, you won't reach your goal, you won't improve. So if you can first learn to enjoy what it's like to speak in situations that used to intimidate you, what we found is everything unlocks naturally. Your filler words start to disappear, your body language starts to be more expressive, your confidence increases, everything improves the moment you find a way to have this relaxed ease. It's like an effortlessness gets unlocked in people. That's why I think you can improve your speaking skills in a dramatically short amount of time. It's not like tennis or golf or any sort of tactical skill that takes 10,000 hours to get better at. Speaking is not something you need to learn or to add on. It's literally something you unlock within yourself. It's like a magic skill that you already have, but it's blocked by self-consciousness, by hesitation, by doubt, by fear, by everything that's clouding in the way. So when you are able to like remove those clouds, we found that like a person's speaking skills can just dramatically unlock. And to me, that's like the most rewarding thing to see in a human being. And that's become the true mission of the company, is unlocking a person's communication skills.
Yeah, I think communication skills is super important. I had this note during the pandemic. I listened to news. It says a girl from a country that doesn't speak English, but the only thing her parents teach her is that you need to be really good at expressing yourself in English. And English is not my first language, and I just hold on to that belief since then. A few years ago,
Mm.
my boss would be like, Lydia, you need to take some business communication course. And I
Mm.
did. And nowadays, I believe my 25-year-old self will look at myself now in disbelief, because I'm hosting podcasts in English. I am about to host my first comedy night as well in October.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I will ask you for advice on that too. And I feel like being able to express myself in a confident way, in my own way, has helped me tremendously in getting a job, getting a new client, and building up a relationship. One thing I'm still not good at is negotiating the value that I provide, because that
Mm.
goes back to deep, deep down in my
Yes.
maybe my 8-year-old self and my culture.
Mm.
We also talked about, as an introvert, how you can be better communicate yourself. That's one
Yeah.
question I also want to ask. And I will also want you, if you still have time, to share the shortest transformation story of your mentees that
Mm.
changed and what stood out to you. And for someone who has never thought about communication and taking any type of training, what's the one trick or one practice that they can take on every day?
Yeah, I mean, we could answer all of these, whichever is most interesting. So
Yeah.
I have the time.
Okay, great.
I'll start with what you talked about, which is like, you know, I'm an introvert by design and by nature. And so whether you're an introvert that wants to speak more confidently, or you're somebody who wants to be a better negotiator or ask for a promotion or a raise, there's something that's inherently uncomfortable about these scenarios for people who feel like what it requires is this sense of kind of like being bigger, this sense of like being assertive, being a certain way that feels a little bit more foreign to them. And so if that's the case, traditional schools of thought, traditional books will teach you certain phrases that you might use, certain techniques, like in NLP, you might mirror somebody, you might establish rapport. There's like all these little tactics. You read like the, I don't know, 48 laws of power, and you try to
Yeah.
like every resource out there is trying to essentially teach you the same thing, which is how do you manipulate the situation in your favor? And that's, to me, a backwards way of looking at it. I don't agree with that philosophy, because to me, that's really just a band-aid from a shaky foundation. The question is like, why aren't you able to negotiate a salary? Why aren't you able to communicate your value? Why aren't you able to be more assertive? It's not because you don't have the right phrases or because you don't have the right techniques. It's because of a wound. It's because of a self-belief. There's something that inside of us that needs either healing or reframing or strengthening. And if we don't address the root issue behind the lack of confidence that we feel, then whatever we build on top of it will have this shaky foundation. We will sort of be trying to pretend to be confident and pretend to be assertive and try to put on these different masks of, let me use this phrase or let me mirror. Instead, what happens if we cultivate a sense of worthiness? What happens if we detach from the importance of the outcome? A lot of people, when they go into a job interview, they're like, I need this job interview to go well. But if you look at the more confident interviewers, their mindset's a little different. They don't go, I need this to go well. They go, I'm curious how this will go. And of course, I'll try my best. But I also want to make sure it's a good fit both ways. So I want to make sure that I feel like I want to work there. And if they feel like they want to work with me and it's mutual, perfect. There's a relaxed atmosphere about it. So my point in all of this is saying that we don't want to just learn tactics and techniques. We want to solve the problem for good. We want to focus on the root issue. And for most people, the root issue behind a lack of confidence is really just a few mindset shifts, a few beliefs that are no longer serving us. Maybe they did in our earlier days, but now they're just getting in the way. And the work of training is not to get better at speaking. It's to learn how to rewire those beliefs in ways that are more true to who we are and who we want to be today.
How do you rewire those beliefs? It almost feels like you need to get into the zone and be relaxed about let go of the outcome. It almost feels like it's less of a communication issue, more of healing your wound issue. Can you
Yeah,
use your training to fix that, or it's a different type of
sure.
question?
Well, would it be all right if, for example, I were to ask you, you mentioned that sometimes you have trouble or you find there's a more hesitation around communicating your value to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about how does that
What was
manifest
that?
for you? Or yeah, what's the challenge you find?
I think for me, it's very, the interesting part is when I speak English, I'm actually more confident because
Okay.
English, I got fluent in English after I was 20 something, right? I studied and lived in the US and travel around the world. So it doesn't come with the baggage that I had when I was a kid, which is also culture. The banking days that I have, people have very, very high, high standard about anything and everything. I am lucky to
Mhm.
have a few very good bosses, and they changed my mind.
I just wanted to jump in and understand, just to make sure I'm following along. You are more confident in English than you are in your
Yes.
native language because of and now I'm using my own words, you kind of get this fresh start. You don't have to have the baggage
Yes.
of previous customs and identities. You get to be this new person. What I'm really curious about, if it's all right, is, so where does the role of communicating your value come into play? Like, when do you have to do that? And do you do it in English?
Nowadays, the communicating my value is most of the time, for example, I want to get a client
Yeah.
and the client would be like, can you tell me your range? Then I would say a price range
Yeah.
that may or may not communicate my value. And then I will always want to
Mm,
justify why I'm worth this much, which I learned you
yeah.
possibly shouldn't do that. If you're confident, like if you're relaxed enough, you would just tell it is what it is. And I'm getting better and better these days
Yeah.
because having more conversations help me realize some people value my worth. And with
Yeah.
that benchmark, I now am more confident when I'm communicating or into another kind of negotiation.
Yeah. So part of this is unavoidable. We all, I went through the same journey. I remember making ridiculous claims, like it's $100,000 to work with me, like it's funny. We're trying to almost prove to ourselves that, yes, I deserve this much. And then we get feedback. Person crosses their arms and goes, there's no way. And you're like, all right, I'm not worth that much. There's a couple things here. One is, one of the most interesting things I learned about making offers to clients came from a book called The Prosperous Coach by Rich Litvin and Steve Chandler. I love that book. In that book, they make a really unique distinction where they say your price is not a reflection of your value. Your price is a reflection of their commitment. This is really, really interesting. Your price is not a reflection of your value because your value shouldn't be reflected in a number. How can it? Your price is more a reflection of how much does this matter to them? For example, let's say you met a billionaire and you said, it costs $400 an hour to work with me and I only work on a minimum of, $10,000. To the billionaire, like, okay, great. They sign the deal and then they don't show up to any of the sessions. It doesn't matter to them. It's kind of like I go to therapy every couple of weeks and my insurance covers it. And it's $14 after insurance to pay for therapy, but it's $85 if I cancel and don't show up. It's insane because insurance doesn't cover cancellations. So even when I don't want to go a few minutes before, I'm like, I'd rather do some work. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pay $85 because that means a lot to me. So the point is that part of the reframing here is that when you're communicating your price, you're associating your worth, your value with it. And that's also shaky foundation. Of course, it's going to take confidence. And of course, you're going to have doubt. But if we saw it from a detached lens of, this is actually has nothing to do with my value, maybe I can only literally take on 10 clients at a time. And maybe the financial goal that I need is I need to make 10,000 a month. So it's going to be $1,000 a client a month. And I only work on the monthly basis because it's too much effort to keep. So bottom line, it's $1,000 a month to work with me and I have a 3-month commitment. That has nothing to do with my value. It has everything to do with the logistics of what's right for me. And on top of that, some people will go, that's really expensive. Well, that must mean that if they commit, they're really going to commit because they're going to find this super valuable. Other people are going to go 1,000 a month. Like, I pay more for my gym than that. Like, okay, I guess let's do it. And then they won't show up. So it really is, a lot of how they respond is actually out of your control and doesn't have much to do with your value as much as it has to do with who they are and what they value.
Wow. This is such a good reframing, I think, that is actually, it shows their commitment rather than my value. I use it more and I definitely check out the book. And
Yeah.
thanks so much for helping me get it. Almost feels like I'm getting a private coaching session. And for the listeners though, I wanted to go back to the introvert bit.
Yeah.
I'm also an introvert. Most of the people would think that I am not. especially when I'm in the UK and Europe, because I study in the US. So then I got a little bit of American in me to be less introvert. But for the introverts out there, how can they first practice to speak up for themselves? You shared some of the really, really useful tips with me last time when we talked about this.
Yeah. One way to demonstrate it is like, for example, shyer people have trouble speaking with conviction, as an example. They have trouble speaking with assertiveness. And the question becomes like, okay, how do I speak with more? If I want to speak up and stand up for myself and talk about what I believe in, I need to have the confidence and the conviction to do so. So how do I do it? And I'll say, okay, well, if I put my coach hat on, my first question is, are you capable of speaking with conviction at all in any situation? And we'll run through some experiments. I'll ask them, like, do you have kids? Have you ever screamed at your child not to do something? Or have you ever, gotten mad at your partner? And they'd go, yeah, of course. And I'm like, great. Okay, so that's where conviction happens naturally. You are physiologically capable of raising your voice and adding more seriousness. When something's really important, you're like, hey, don't do that. Or hey, stop it. This makes me so upset. It's like, wow, something shifts in you and all of a sudden you have access to that. So this is a groundbreaking realization. It's like, oh, you already have conviction. It's just you only reserve it for the tiniest private moments in your life, with your kids, with your spouse, maybe with yourself. You're like, Michael, why would you be so stupid? It's like, oh, wow, we could do that with ourselves too. So we have that energy. And so then maybe I'd have a conversation with them and I'd say, okay, for example, let's say I'm coaching a client on their prices, right? And I would say, well, Lydia, how much does it cost to work with you? And you'd say, well, it's $100 an hour. And I go, I don't think it's worth that. You might go, well, yeah, maybe not. And I'd go, oh, okay. I can't teach you to speak with conviction if you don't feel like that price is really something you stand behind. So it's like, okay, the problem's not the speaking, it's the belief. So we might go deep into that. And I'm like, all right, let's try a lower price. Try $20 an hour. So Lydia, how much does it cost to work with you? You say $20 an hour. I go, I really don't think it's worth that much. At some point, you're going to be like, wait,
What are you
yeah, it's
talking about?
definitely worth, it's worth $20 an hour. I'm showing up for a full hour. That's like almost minimum wage in certain states. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's some conviction. That's good. Okay, so now how do we increase that to $40 an hour? Like, why else might you? So you almost have to like figure out what you genuinely believe. And sometimes the quickest way to do that is by challenging somebody, by provoking them, by going, I don't think it's worth that. I don't believe you. And suddenly their convictions come out. They're like, no, this is important. And so to be able to do that for ourselves, we could use something called conviction prompts. These are phrases for your brain to be able to add more conviction to whenever you're speaking. In fact, could I run you through a quick exercise to show you what conviction prompts look like?
Please. I love this. Please.
Okay, fantastic. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. And what's going to happen is I'm going to have you talk about what's something that you really believe in, what's something that really feels like it matters to you a lot and what more people should know about. That's the topic that I want you to talk about. And then what's going to happen is on my screen, when I hit start training, you're going to get a 1-minute timer or a minute, 10 seconds. And your job is to speak for that minute and tell us about what really matters to you. And as you're speaking, you're going to have these random phrases appear on your screen. These are conviction prompts. Your job is to just incorporate this phrase, like read it out loud and incorporate it into your speaking. Such as, and this is fundamental because, might be an example of a conviction prompt. Or another one might be game changer. Your job is to just use this type of bold language as you're explaining what really matters to you. Cool? Okay, here we go.
Do I start now? Yeah, okay. I think climate is really important to every one of us, and everyone should be a climate person. Being a climate person doesn't mean that you have to be an engineer or a scientist. We cannot forget the fact that we only have one planet, and if we don't have that, none of the other things matters. Money doesn't matter. Relationship will crumble, and all the yard buildings will be in ruins. It frustrated me that people just live their life as if this doesn't matter, despite the fact that there's Wi-Fi's everywhere. There's extreme weather conditions in the places that we don't know about. And I don't understand how people who have power and money don't pay enough attention to this matter. And I want more and more people to come into work here, not because they're angry, but because we can make the planet. I genuinely believe that with everyone's help, we can make the planet a sustainable place for all of us to live on.
Good. Yeah, fantastic. How did that feel for you? So the
Thank you.
phrases were like, I genuinely believe that. It frustrates me
Yes.
that. What most people don't understand. What was it like to incorporate those?
I love these. This is a topic that I care personally about very much, and I think about those every day. I
Yeah.
talked about with the same topic with people that they use those phrases. It's very easy to talk through those two, and I also genuinely believe and have a high conviction in this problem since 2017. So that's why I guess I can get through the exercise without stumbling. But I love
Yeah,
the
yeah. Well,
exercise. It's so fun.
it's fun, and you did a fantastic job. Your brain is really sharp. And if I could make one suggestion to
Yes,
really
please.
bring this to life. So what tends to happen when we play the first time, it's completely normal. We're just trying to get through the exercise. We don't even know if our brain can finish these sentences on the fly, right? So we end up sort of saying the sentence kind of in the same energy as the rest of our speaking. And so we might say, in fact, the entire world needs to know more about this. Another way we could do it is to emphasize these words. And since we're just training, let's exaggerate the emphasis. So instead of saying, in fact, the entire world, we go, in fact, the entire world. Or instead of, we cannot forget that, we say, and we cannot forget that, da 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 da. So almost like dive into these phrases with some energy, with like extra exaggerated emphasis, and see what that does to your brain. Because I have a feeling it's going to bring out something really, really magical for you. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Can do it again.
Okay, fantastic. So give me an example before we start. If I give you the phrase, this is a game changer, how would you say it?
This is a game changer.
Okay, and what if you had to even increase? Like, what if you had to exaggerate even more? How would you say it?
This is a game changer.
Good. So now you're changing even the pacing of how you're saying it. So whatever you're doing to emphasize those words, that's the perfect mindset here. So let's try one more time and tell us a little bit about, besides climate change on a different topic, what is it in your other line of work that you feel really passionate about, that if more people knew this skill or this way of thinking or this habit, it would change their lives? What's something that comes to mind? Do you have something?
I have two other things. One is I believe everyone can be healthy. It doesn't
Okay.
cost that much.
Okay.
And you just need to change your habit,
Yeah.
the way
And what's
you
the second
eat.
thing?
The second is everyone should be able to find their passion in their career. You don't have to stuck in the 9 to 5, which is why I'm doing
Yeah.
this podcast.
Okay. Which one feels like you want to practice some conviction on?
I have another one. Another one is I feel like women really, really have a lot more power than they believe they themselves have.
Okay. Why don't we go with that one? Let's do that
Yeah.
last one. And remember to really emphasize each word in the phrase that pops up. You got this.
So I believe women has way more power than they believe themselves in. A lot of times we stop ourselves and reject ourselves before the world even says no to us, which I don't understand. But I also understand we cannot forget that women and men are equal in this world. We create and contribute to the world in different aspects, and the world needs both of us. If we lean on to our own power, we can produce more and contribute more. It's staggering to consider that because we're women, that we have less power than men. In the current society, everyone, a knowledge worker, we have our own share and talent to bring into the world. I genuinely believe that if we as women believe in our own power and assert it in our own way, in our feminine way, we can lift an entire society to the next level. If I could only choose one thing, is to empower more girls and women to step into their own power.
Lydia, that was fantastic. Wow, your speaking
Thank you.
really came to life. That was
I love
incredible to
this.
see.
I'm so happy. Gosh, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
So can you share to the listeners a little bit of like what felt different about that one than your first one?
Yeah, like you said, I think the first one, both of the topic is something that I think about a lot. The first one, I'm trying to get through the exercise because I'm not familiar with the exercise. And also, you didn't coach me at all before I started it. So I don't know, you need to like change your tone a little bit and things like that. The second one, I try to implement the skills a little bit more. And also, I'm familiar, my brain has adapted to the format of the exercise. Then
And
I
what
can do
felt
it better.
different?
I am more at ease.
Yeah.
What do you think I changed from the first one to the second one?
I think that there was an aliveness, like a genuine aliveness. And that's really the point of these prompts. It's not about using sentences or using any sort of phrases. It's to, most people might, like, imagine you're reading somebody else's words and you're just kind of reading out loud to the class and you're like, and I genuinely believe that all of us should be able to be empowered more. And it's staggering to consider it's like your heart's not in it. So as a coach, what I'm looking for is how do I get your heart in it? How do I get your energy in it? How do I bring out aliveness? Because when you put that ingredient in, everything takes care of itself. So one tactic is to say, well, can you really emphasize these phrases? And when you do, like, I remember you said something along the lines of like, I genuinely believe that. You put some emotion into that phrase. And so the result of that emotion charged your words to carry more conviction, to carry more energy. So really the backbone of speaking, the ingredient behind the words is not the grammar. It's not the structure. It's the energy that's charging those words. And so my job to help people speak better is to raise their energy. It's to infuse more aliveness, help them find ways to access their own internal reservoir of passion and enthusiasm and conviction. Because when you feel more energy internally, you're going to speak with more emotion. And emotion is ultimately the thing that connects us as human beings. That's really at the heart of effective communication.
Oh my God, this is so good. I get so much out of this conversation. I hope our listeners do too. I wanted to ask you about what's next for Ultraspeaking. You have a definition about Ultraspeaking, and I just experienced it feels like you have brought out my own passion and my internal reservoir of who I am. I can walk out of this conversation more confident. What are you seeing the business model, or if you are going to expand your business in the next few years, what matters to you?
What matters to me is human transformation, and specifically around the scale of communication. And transformation to me doesn't mean skill improvement. It means like a whole inside out awakening. It's like, wow, I have a superpower. I already had it. It's like, oh my God, that's the kind of realization that I'm really passionate about. And so Ultraspeaking's job, its reason for being, is to help foster that type of transformation in people. And there's really two kinds of people that we tend to see most commonly come to Ultraspeaking. The first is the person who really struggles with nervousness, even to the point of anxiety, who really feels like when they speak, their mind starts to get foggy and their hands start to shake. And it's really common to experience blanking and rambling. And it's really for the person who kind of looks at speaking and goes, I'm not good at that. I don't really even want to do it, but sometimes I have to and it sucks. That type of person is who I used to be. And we designed a 30-day course for specifically building self-confidence, solving anxiety for good, and being able to learn how to navigate the most common speaking scenarios out there. That's called the Fundamentals course. It's a live course, so it's not self-paced. It's not video modules. It's live practice with people. Because regardless of where you train, if it's Ultraspeaking or Toastmasters or whatever, the only thing that matters for genuine skill advancement is practicing with people, not on your own, not with a bot, but practicing with people. Because the only problem for us is not the speaking part. All of us can speak.
Yeah.
The problem is the pressure part. It's the part where we're at work and we suddenly feel intimidated or self-conscious. We need to be able to recreate and simulate that feeling in our training. Otherwise, it's a waste of training. We're not training for the real thing. So you can train by watching YouTube videos and reading books and practicing on your own, but then you get in front of a group of people and it's like, wow, wait, I didn't feel any nervousness on my own. Now I feel all this nervousness. Nothing that I learned is going to help me. So the thing I care about most is if you practice, you have to practice with other people. That's what the Fundamentals course is about. And it's really for the person that is struggling to overcome anxiety and wanting to build self-confidence. The other course that we have is called Professional L1, and that's for people who are more like rising managers, people in the professional world who have to succeed in more of the tactical scenarios, like giving a presentation, pitching ideas, getting buy-in for your ideas, and speaking with more clarity. So this is more of a tactical course geared towards the professional world. And that's also a 30-day course as well. Also live. You practice in small breakout rooms. So it's just you, two other people in the Ultraspeaking community going through a lot of different games. It's all game-based because even though we want people to feel a sense of stakes in their training, as I said in the beginning, none of that matters if you're not having a good time. So very quickly, you find out within the first day of fundamentals if this is right for you, because you'll see, do I enjoy training in this game-based type way, or does it feel not fun? And if it doesn't feel fun, you shouldn't do it. And I'll end with this. I believe we run free day one of fundamentals like every couple of weeks. So if you want to experience the 30-day course, you can experience the first day with other people, like everything in the program for free. Just sign up to our newsletter. You'll hear about it on ultraspeaking.com. But that way you can literally experience what it's going to be like, and you can have a really, really felt knowing of, is this for me or is this not for me?
Awesome. We'll link all of the resources in the link down below in the video. I have mentioned about the nervousness because I'm going to host my first comedy night that I have no experience of. How can I get the attention of the whole room on the nights when people are distracted? Is there any particular tactic that you can give me one or two on the day?
So is the question around the nervousness for this event, or literally the tactic of going up on stage, everyone's kind of talking amongst themselves? How do I get their attention?
The tactics, more of the tactics. I think the nervousness, I will get over it because most of the people that are my friends.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because this is a comedy night, so it's a very different environment than most speaking. So we have to take that into account, right? Like, this is a very unique circumstance. For example, pausing is one of the most important skills in speaking. But if you pause too much on an Instagram reel or a YouTube short, people are just going to swipe away so we have to take into account not just general speaking advice, but what medium are you playing? If you're at a comedy club and you want to get up and get people's attention and, they're all talking, maybe one thing I would do is I would just start whispering. I'd be like, "Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here," and maybe try to get a
That's a good.
laugh of that, of like, "Oh, that's funny," because they can't hear
Yeah,
me, so they might lean in, and it's funny that I'm like I'm playing a character. Maybe a more confident, natural version is to just be like, all right, fantastic. Like, cool, let's get started. Ma'am in the blue shirt. Hey, can everyone give a round of applause for the woman in the blue shirt that's still talking? Like I'll try to engage the
yeah,
crowd, but ultimately, I think the mindset that's most helpful and takes time to adopt is that if you're new to this, you will go into that scenario, not you in particular, but a person that's new to this will go in feeling like their audience is sort of hostile. They'll have this sort of like, I'm a little bit scared of my audience. I don't know anybody. I'm like trying to get their attention. Like there's sort of this antagonistic relationship. When you're more experienced or when you've had training or just the naturals, the people for whom this is easy, the biggest difference is they go in with the mindset of like, this is a friendly audience. I'm one of them. Let's have a good time together. We're all after the same thing. So it's kind of going in with a cooperative energy of like everybody's here together and I'm part of that, instead of this competitive or just sort of like, I don't know, conflicting energy where I have to win them
yeah,
over
yeah.
and they're them and I'm me. So the best thing is to just like assume that everyone's on your side, assume everyone wants to have a good time. You're already part of that group, so embody those mindsets, and whatever you end up doing will flow from that more foundational positive energy.
Yeah, have fun is the most important thing. I think it's a good time to go to a lightning round. I have a 3, 2, 1 lightning round. So,
Okay,
are you ready?
I'm ready.
The first one is 3 mini beliefs that make anyone sound more present on the spot.
3 mini beliefs that make anybody sound more present on the spot. Number 1 is, the better I listen, the more I'll know what to say. Number 2 is, there's no best outcome. There's no best path. There's only what feels right to say in the moment. And number 3 is, follow your curiosity. Follow what feels interesting to you. That'll lead oftentimes to the best conversations.
Awesome. The second one is 2 rituals or tools you actually use to be a better public speaker.
The first is set an intention. Literally write down how you want to be on your next call or in your next meeting. So it might be like open and present, or I want to be supportive and I'll put like listening. So focus more on your energy in your intention than on things outside your control. That's one ritual, set an intention. The second ritual, what was the question? Ritual to
To be a better public speaker. Ritual or tools.
speak conversationally. It's not really a ritual, but whenever I start talking to someone, I'm like, hey, what's going on? What's up? How are you? I'm not like, hello, very nice to meet. I'm trying to speak like myself so that I can feel like myself. And then I'm more relaxed and my speaking improves as a result. So speak conversationally.
Nice. Awesome. The final one is, what's the one question every speaker should ask them before they start?
What if I could enjoy this more?
Yeah, this is good. This is so good. Thank you, Michael. I love
Thanks,
this.
Lydia. Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Finally, I have a closing tradition. One is, you have a question from a previous guest, and his question
Okay.
is, dead or alive, which two famous people would you love to have dinner with, and what would you ask them?
So one person that comes to mind is someone most people have never heard of. His name is Ralph Smedley. Ralph Smedley was the founder of Toastmasters, and he founded Toastmasters, I think, in the 50s. And I would just be so curious to know, what was he trying to solve? What was his philosophy on how to solve it? In a sense, like we're trying to do what he did in the 50s, we're trying to do it our way for the modern era. So it'd be great to get to meet the man. That's number one. Who else would I love to have dinner with, dead or alive? My two co-founders, Tristan and Yoshi. Tristan lives in Maui. Yoshi lives in New York. They're both alive and well, thank goodness. But we rarely see one another. We rarely now,
Really?
Tristan and I used to do all of our coaching sessions together in person. So if you were a client, you wouldn't just get Michael, you'd get Michael and Tristan together always. And then back in the pandemic years, I moved to the Bay Area, he moved to Maui. And so, we went from seeing each other every day, multiple times a day, to like seeing each other every 4 to 6 months. And same with Yoshia, we met and he lived in New York. So it would just be amazing to have both of them and just, they're also my best friends. So that's rare in having your business partners be like genuinely people that you love and that you have as friends. So these would be my top two. I would put my wife as the number one, but I have dinner with her so often that I feel like I need to use this for a little bit more of a rare opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Can you leave a question for the next guest?
What's one thing you wish you could see more of from yourself?
It's a very deep question. Thank you so much, Michael. I definitely feel like I've been transformed after this conversation.
Pleasure.
I would encourage more people to check out your course. I'm so happy that we get to do this. And hopefully next time when we have another conversation, we'll update your progress on the jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yes. Yeah. One step closer to blue belt, I hope. That's the dream. Thanks, Lydia.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day. It's for the rest of the day. Thanks, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So this is another episode of Escape 95. We have recorded more than a year now, just over 30 episodes at this point of recording. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you watched to the end or listened to the end. If today's conversation opened up some thoughts for you, sparked some dreams that you have put away for so long, or it just reminded you of someone else who might need this conversation, I would love for you to share it with them. Because what I find out in this life and on this Escape 9 to 5 path is I believe we all have that inner fire in us. We all have that dream to become who we really want to become. But sometimes we just need a little bit of spark. We need a little bit of story to figure out what is the right way to do it for ourselves. And this is the podcast and the space for that. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Find all the previous episodes here. We'll also have a LinkedIn and also Instagram accounts that you can follow for more thoughts and reflections we share. I'm beyond lucky to have these kind of conversations on this platform that I built for myself. I hope that you enjoy watching it and you build that for yourself too. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next episode.